Hey y'all, hey, it's JJ Conway. We're back to our classes on Thursday nights, and I'm super excited to be here. I want to welcome you for joining me tonight. Hang on just a second. While I'm getting a sip, if you can hear me okay, go ahead and put something in the comments or give me some likes or love so I can make sure that you can hear me. I know we've had some issues with the internet in the past, and today has been a really wonky internet day. I was hosting a Zoom earlier and got kicked out of my own Zoom like 3 times. It was ridiculous. So if you can hear me, go ahead and let me know. I think my throat still hasn't caught up from hosting that conference last year. But again, if you can hear me, let me know. Give me some hearts, some likes, some loves, some comments, some hello, or something like that. Let me know where you're listening in from or watching in from. And I'm really excited to be here with you all today. All right, all right. I think we are ready to get started. I don't know if anybody on who's on today remembers the day when I taught for like 15 minutes and had no sound. I had comments and everything. I mean, I thought people were getting a lot out of it. I joke with my husband later afterward. I must have looked really, really cute that day. All right. Okay. So hello again. Hello. I want to welcome you and thank you for joining me in my countdown to your best year ever class. This year, as usual, we have a special treat for you. It is going to be life-changing just like the other couple of years that we've done this. We're doing a new series. It's a new series called Power Principles: Creating a Life That Matters. My name is JJ Conway, and I'm a financial coach, educator, speaker, trainer, coach, and all around good friend, I like to think, right? But seriously, though, I am really, really excited about these power principles. So before I jump into the introduction and the first power principle of understanding, I want to say thank you to everyone who helped me create this program. You know that there's that old adage that says many hands make light work, and surely that's the case with this project. I wouldn't be where I am today with all the things that we've done this year without people behind the scenes who are making up for my many faults. So I also want to extend my gratitude to mentors and teachers along the way, folks like Les Brown, Paul Shealy, Dr. Cheryl Wood, Paul Martinelli, who actually helped me put this content together a while ago, and I just hadn't delivered it to you all. And so finally, I'd also like to recognize my kiddos, Philly Bob PK, who you can find on youtube.com, Philly Bob, youtube.com/C/Philly Bob PK, and the Cubby, who doesn't have his own channel yet, but I'm seriously considering getting him his own ring light kit. They have one at the store, the little kit for kids to make their own videos for Christmas. I don't know. We'll see. So without those two boys influencing and motivating me, this series or any of the projects that I do would be absolutely incomplete. All right, so let's jump into it. Some of you may know a little bit about my background, and some of you may not. So let me give you the top of the waves, okay? I was born in Wilkes-Barre, PA. That's Pennsylvania, for those of you who aren't from the East Coast. And our family was kind of a cross between Old World Virgin Islands on my dad's side of the family, and then this I'm going to rebel against my traditional Italian old ways upbringing on my mom's side of the family. And so we were pretty much a lower middle class kind of family. But since this is a positive series, we're going to call it an upper lower class, right? My dad wasn't really my dad, which no one seems to care about decades later, but my siblings and the schoolyard kids never let me forget it. And so the teachers, they labeled me slow. Some of you have heard the story, and I've had to overcome a lot of stigma concerning both the out of wedlock birth, because that was a big deal in the culture where we were in the military based culture, as well as having a different learning style than most people. And I truly believe that a lot of people aren't as slow or as different or as abnormal as many of us say they are. I really believe that a lot of people just have a different learning style or different talents and strengths than the norm. But if you don't fit in that normal bell curve, well, then the society still likes to slap labels on you and put you in your corner and leave you there, right? I think society today, though, is a lot more accepting about those things. But back then, those two things were basically a social death warrant, right? And the feelings and the opinions of others had me develop a learning model that was really based on a lie. I had this belief. It was a belief about myself, but it was based on a lie. And here's something that I realized that's really powerful. It's very possible in our lives to have a very real belief that is very, very real, but it is based on a lie. And I had a belief that I was incapable of being successful or socially acceptable. And unfortunately, I kind of rose to those expectations throughout my whole school career, right? And it's one thing about kids. I found that on the playground of life, kids can be cruel. And 5 and 6 year old kids around the merry-go-round, they got a way of identifying any difference there is with anybody, right? All they gotta do is say, "Oh, look, this left person's left nostril's bigger than their right nostril." Oh, that's it, right? One kid comes up, is like, "Wow, look at them! That left nostril is bigger than their right nostril." And by the end of the day, they've taken it, they've rhymed it to your name, they put it to music, they put it out on YouTube, and now all the kids are singing it, right? Like, but for me, my difference was more profound. And again, in today's world, decades later, it doesn't matter as much as it did then, all right? But it was a big deal then. And I didn't understand why then it was such a big deal that my parents weren't married. I mean, looking back on it, I kind of wonder how the school kids even found out, to be honest with you. And I didn't understand why in high school the other kids laughed at me for standing in line to get our 2 boxes of free food. I thought it was wonderful to get the free food. It was the only time we really only had candy, growing up. It was Easter, Christmas, birthday parties, and the 2 boxes of free food once a month, right? Like, oh, I didn't understand that it was something wrong with getting the reduced to free lunch program, right? I didn't know that. All I knew was something was different about me. And every time I got teased and didn't understand what was going on, why I was being teased, it just anchored the belief that there was something different, and more importantly, that there was something wrong with me. And that stuck with me for the longest period of time. And it really became the filter of my belief. You know, there's a book called The True Believer, written by Eric Hoffer, and he said something pretty profound. He said that in order for us to learn anything, it requires a certain degree of confidence. He said if you got too little confidence, then you think you can't learn. So why bother trying, right? But if you think you have too much confidence, then you think you don't have to learn, right? And so I spent the first half of my life, honestly, with too little confidence. Now I put on a good show, and a lot of people thought I was overconfident, but I just thought it was impossible for me to ever figure things out because no one would ever sit down with me and explain what I was missing or what was going on. And I was told I was never going to get anywhere. I was never going to be anywhere. I was never going to be anything. I wasn't going to do anything. And when you get told that, guess what? Guess what? Guess where you go? Almost nowhere. And if it weren't for a chance encounter that had me over at Lucerne County Community College, I probably would have failed out of high school. I wasn't supposed to be in their program that day, but somehow I was. And let me tell you what that little community college did. They gave me hope. They gave me hope for the first time. Hope that I could actually be more than the cleaning lady or the cashier that my teachers had prescribed for my future. Now, one thing about me is when I get an idea in my head, I don't give it up easily, right? And I'd always been something of an entrepreneur, right? When you're broke, you find ways to get money, right? I was that kid on the playground selling gum, tchotchkes that I collected from the airbase sporting event. Everyone would leave the bleachers. I'd be waiting for my dad to come out of the locker room, and I'd be underneath the bleachers scooping up all the stuff that fell out of people's pockets, right? Babysitting, writing, collecting bottles once we moved back to the States, whatever it was that I could do to make some money to buy some little, creature comfort things such as, candy or whatever. And so for me, when I went in that little program at Lucerne County Community College, and they gave me this hope that someone like me could actually go to college, it wasn't just about going to college. It was my ticket to making big money and making sure that my kids wouldn't be laughed for being on the free lunch program. Anybody else ever been there? Anybody else ever been there? All right. It was about more than college. It was about being able to have freedom in my life. So fast forward, I get to college. Now I'm in the Air Force, and this thing called the internet had just come out, and people were asking me to build them websites. And I, for the entrepreneur, right? I obliged, and I got paid decently for my first little company. It was called Jasper Web Host. And I don't have stats to prove it, okay? But as far as I know, I was the first Black woman-owned web host and design company out there. All right, nobody, I wasn't tracking any of that back then, but I'm pretty sure I was, right? But the internet grew, things got hard, and I couldn't keep up with the security demands of protecting against spam and all the sophisticated ways that somebody could hack a site. So I sold the business and started another one, Precious and Pleasant Boutique. Some of you watching today, you still get your suits when I do my annual suit buying for Precious and Pleasant Boutique, okay? And this was back, this boutique was really had its heyday back when the ladies of my church dressed their daughters in the frilly pageant dresses, with the big poofy sleeves and the big ruffly bows and the big ruffly socks. Anybody remember those? We used to wear the Donna Vinci sequin suits and the Ben Mark hats. I mean, the tides have changed, the fashion has changed, and instead of the fancy suits, most of the ladies had started wearing more fitted dresses. And I kind of kept that business and nursed it along, and now I use it to buy my kids' clothes, my son's suits, until Cubby grows out of them, right? But I still nursed that along until I rolled into another venture and another and another. And in fact, I had 17 different business ventures before I found the one I'm in now, the one that stuck. All right. And so I'll tell you what, I thought I was being savvy. I was conserving my strength. I mean, that sounds good, right? I mean, of course it does, right? I'm going to unload this business and I'm going to move to that one, which is more profitable right now. I mean, come on, I'm a visionary. How many of you out there are visionaries, right? I get things started and someone else can do the maintenance. Well, now that might be true. That might be true. Oh, Miss Jackie, you had them dresses and suits too, huh? They're starting to make a comeback. I don't know if they'll make a comeback enough for me to have another boutique. Well, they are starting to make a comeback in my church. I don't know about anybody else's church, right? But in my church. But so being a visionary and saying, "Hey, I'm a visionary and I'm this and that." Well, that is definitely true of my personality, right? Like I've started so many working groups and communities of interest in the military, right? Like these are things that are still standing now, and I've even helped start churches and ministries at almost every military assignment I've been in. So there's some truth to that. I am a visionary, but here's what was really happening. I was stuck and I didn't know how to get unstuck. And I couldn't admit that I didn't know how to get unstuck because I still had this limiting belief that I was slow and didn't understand enough. And that's why nobody wanted me around. Now I kind of know as an adult, it's probably because I have a big mouth and I'm not afraid to call out bad math. Those things will absolutely get you uninvited from a lot of parties. All right. But back then, the belief that I had was that I was slow and that I didn't understand enough. And if it even occurred to me that maybe somebody might help me get unstuck, well, of course, they're not going to help me because my prior conditioning said, because of my birth conditions and because of my comprehension issues and being labeled slow as a child, I was worthless. I was pretty much good for being used and abused and not much else. That's the conditioning I had. So if I wanted to do something, I was going to have to do it on my own because ain't nobody was going to help me, right? And if I found, this is the belief that I had, and this is not connected to the personal limiting beliefs, but this was a big wind that was blowing through the entrepreneurial world. If you find something you're good at and you love and you're passionate enough, you never have to work again, right? So in my mind, I should be able to do this without having to work so hard. Well, I don't know if you've ever been stuck, but stuck stinks. And boy, was I stuck. And I couldn't go beyond. Like I couldn't grow these businesses. Every time I would get it as far as I could take it. I couldn't grow it any more than I had. And if I picked up a client, all right, but it seemed like a week later I'd lose somebody else. Or if I got a really good supplier or vendor or virtual assistant or tradesman just trained up to how I do business, well, then they'd leave and go to work for somebody else and command more money. And I'd be back at ground zero, starting all over again. And I couldn't understand why I couldn't get my business to grow. And sometimes when we're in that situation, we just do whatever we can come to our mind, whatever comes before us, whatever we can think of, and we just move in that direction. So I did something I did something I'd never done before. I started going to business classes at the county. I mean, my taxes paid for it, right? And I figured somebody had this knowledge and they were helping other people, and maybe I could sit in the back and learn, and I would get the tips and implement them and things would work out all right. Well, I still saw the problem as the business. I still saw the problem as the marketplace. I still saw the problem as the client or the economy or the lack of available good help. All right. I never recognized at that point that the problem was in the mirror. I never recognized at that point that the problem was in the mirror. And I really enjoyed the classes, but to get real help, I either needed to pay more to utilize their off-site classes or to utilize resources like SCORE, the Service Corps of Retired Executives. I had to be further along in my business. Now, in some counties, SCORE will help a startup, but this was in Fairfax County, and there you had to be further along, at least back then. You had to be further along. And I never got further along because every time things got tough, what did I do? I sold the business, right? I sold the business or I gave up and I tried something else. So I never got far enough along to get the free help. And I kept getting these recommendations for personal growth books. And, some people would say that I've read everything from A to Z, right? From Anthony Robbins to Zig Ziglar, right? And that's becoming true, right? I've read a bunch, but in all that reading, I just couldn't get anything to really stick to help me make a change in my business. See, those books were talking about motivation, but I was already pretty motivated. I had this past I was running from. I had this self image and this ego that thought that I was worth more than everybody else said I was. I didn't need a kick in the pants to stay on the same track or go faster. What I needed was a completely new direction. See, I didn't need motivation. I needed understanding. I needed a better understanding of how to achieve. And part of the understanding that I received is what I'm going to share with you in this Power Principles series. Without a doubt in my mind, the understanding that I received from the principles in the series literally changed my life and in every area of my life. Now, we can hear somebody say that something changed their life. And it almost as a passive listener, it becomes hard to believe unless you've actually experienced it. Okay. But I went from struggling in my business to now being a full-time mom and entrepreneur who lives a very fulfilling and abundant life. Despite whatever happened in the past, despite health issues and conditions, despite COVID, despite all of it. And the truth of the matter is, I always had the potential to build that business. I just lacked the awareness and the belief and the principles that I'm going to share with you throughout this program. You see, I lacked the awareness of my potential. I lacked the belief in myself that I could actually do it. I saw potential in other people. I saw potential in other things. I never saw it in myself. I may have hoped for it, but deep down inside, I may have acted like it. Boy, I tell you what, I put on a good confident show when I need to, right? But deep down inside, I did not see it there. I didn't see it in myself. I put my belief in other people. And if I was ever going to accomplish anything, man, it had to be on borrowed belief because I didn't have any of my own. Not the kind of belief that changes things in your life, not the kind of belief that changes your business. And I didn't understand the principles within a learning model of achievement in building my business and ultimately my life achievement. Okay. My goal here is for you to share some of these principles. It's for me to share some of these principles, okay, in a meaningful way, in an authentic way. I'm not going to sit here and pretend that I'm perfect, that I got it all figured out, okay? And I'm not worried about whether or not I communicate it perfectly, okay? What I'm trying to do is I want to connect with you. My purpose is to connect with you and share these. And that's why I've purposely kept these lessons shorter than some of my previous ones, because I want you to be able to watch or listen to them and get some real meat. There's a lot of programs on the market today. They got all this fluff, right? I've intentionally made this as much content as I possibly can. And so this series of key power principles is not only going to transform your method of achieving your goals and dreams, but it will also shift your traditional beliefs, your old traditional beliefs and judgments. We are the sum total of the beliefs and judgments and values, and the decisions that we make are a result of the beliefs and judgments that we have. And so I guarantee that all these power principles, even if you've already heard these things in the past, now you're going to be listening to them with new awareness. These power principles will shape your learned model process of achieving so that you can achieve the life you desire, so that you can achieve the life you deserve, so that you can achieve the life that is rightfully yours to claim, a rewarding and successful life. Each of these principles will open up a door to a new awareness and guide you with daily practices that tear down the wall of limiting principles that prevented you in the past from achieving your full achievement possibilities and leading the beautiful, successful life that God wanted you to live. I believe that these power principles will change your decision making, which will then change your life as you see it. And then when you change your life as you see it, it will change the way your life as you live it. Change your life. These principles will also wash away your fears that you don't deserve something, that you don't deserve anything, that you don't deserve greatness, that you don't deserve abundance, right? Or that you don't, can't, won't, shouldn't achieve your full true desires. And what I also believe is that these power principles will help you enhance your visions beyond what you even dream of now. Like I think about the things that I'm getting called to speak at now, and I think about the doors that are opening for me now, and it really is beyond anything that I could have imagined at this time last year. And so for me, I want that for you because for me, I've seen it play out in my life and I've seen it every year. I say the same thing. And anybody who's taken my self image class that we're going to start in January, I say it the same thing all the time. I'm always so amazed at how successfully these principles work. I'm always so amazed at how much you can achieve that I keep thinking I should set my goals higher. And then I think I set them higher, and then I get them, and then I'm like, wow, this really works. And I'll set it higher. So what? So those of you who've been in countdown for the last 4 years, every year you've heard me say it. And so the reason I really want to share these principles with you is because success can and will be yours. Success can and will be yours. And a lot of us are doing our planning for 2022. We're getting our vision boards ready. We're going through our goals, our purpose, our vision, our goals. And I'm telling you, if we don't address what's going on in here, all of that's nice and good, and all that can move us forward a little bit. But I'm not just here to move forward a little bit. I'm here to go all the way, baby. And I want you to come with me. All right. So why do I call these power principles? Well, I've learned and tested each of these principles through experience, and I've personally formed a successful, rewarding life using them. And for me, that's powerful. For me, that's powerful when I can look around at my life and say, wow, my life is on the trajectory that I really want it to go on. And I look at the life of all the people that started out with me, and I can't say that for them. And they may have had this going for them and that going for them back in the day. And I didn't have any of those things going for them or going for me back in the day. But now I do. And it's not that any of us changed. It's that I've changed the way I think. I've changed the way I approach life. I've incorporated these power principles into my life, and they have borne fruit. So let me help you understand the concept of power principles. Okay, so here's the concept. I've learned that the way we do everything in our life is really based on a learning model that is created by our awareness, our belief, and the understanding that we have of these kinds of principles. Okay. These learning models are ultimately maintained or supported by our conditioning and our habits. So, like the way we get dressed in the morning, the way we tie our shoes, the way we put our pants on, the way we drive our car, the way we make decisions, the way we interact with our loved ones and our coworkers. I mean, even the decisions we make about maintaining our body temple, our eating habits, physical activity, all of that operates through learning models. And as I become aware of the understanding of why we do what we do and why we don't do some of the things that we really want to do, I realize that these learning models are based on three things. The first, they're based on our level of awareness of our potential. The awareness of the opportunities right in front of us. Awareness of maybe future pitfalls, obstacles, challenges that we may face in our lives. For most of our lifetimes, we were programmed to believe that we had to be in the right place at the right time. How many times have you heard that, right? Got to be in the right place at the right time if you're going to win. Well, I found that to be a lie because I know that in my life, and perhaps you've experienced this too, but in my life, there have been times when I was smack dab in the middle of exactly the right place at exactly the right time. And while everybody around me was winning, I was losing. See, it's not just about being in the right place at the right time. And really, if you want to get deep about it, we are always in the right place at the right time. It's about having the awareness of your potential while you're there. See, I have found that without awareness of our potential, we can absolutely be in the right place at the right time and not see the opportunities that are right in front of us. Woo. Once you begin to master the principles within a learning model of achievement, you will find, even if you're in the wrong place at the wrong time, that you can win because the potential for winning is with you. Isn't that something? Even if you're in the wrong place at the wrong time, you can win because the potential for winning is with you always. Now you can find people who are saying that currently we're in a down economy, the market's down, this has happened, that's happened, this is the wrong time to grow a business or take a risk, okay? And while everyone else is playing it safe, if you will expand your awareness of your potential, your self-belief, and you begin to apply these principles, you're going to find that you can win regardless of the conditions and circumstances. You can win regardless of the conditions and circumstances. And I want to say that again because I know somebody is in a lot of pain right now and you don't see how you can win. I'm telling you, you can win. Somebody has been broken, their heart has been broken by their family and all these other issues, and you don't see how you're ever going to be able to win. But I'm telling you, you can win. It's not about your present circumstances and conditions. That's there, but that is not your future. That is not the be all and end all of your success. Oh, I know your body's racked in pain. I remember times when my body has been racked in pain too. And I remember times when I couldn't even move, couldn't even think straight. I have been there. But I'm telling you, regardless of the conditions and circumstances that you are facing, you can win. So, as you will see, it has very little to do with being in the right place at the right time. And it has everything to do with being aware of your potential and belief in your ability to do it. And then to master the principles that I'm going to share with you over the next 5 or so weeks. The second component of the learning model is based on our current level of belief. So we talked about awareness. And I want to mention awareness again because there are solutions that are in front of you that you're not even aware of. There are solutions that have been in front of me that I could have taken and I could have used and I wasn't even aware of. And you know how they say hindsight is 2020? Well, sorry, I gotta take a little side note there. Well, we all didn't have a whole lot of 2020 vision, did we? And then we thought 2021 was going to be better. Well, hindsight really was 2020 because I don't know that 2021 was that much better for a whole lot of people, right? So I chuckle a little bit at all this 2020 and 2021 things, but let me go back. Let me go back to what I'm saying. So we talked about awareness. We talked about awareness, and now we're going to talk about belief. But before we talk about belief, I want to really pin home something on awareness. Awareness is our ability not only to be aware of our potential, but when we're aware of our potential and we understand that we have the potential to win no matter what's going on, it opens up the aperture of our understanding. It opens up the eyes of our understanding, and then we're able to actually see the opportunities that are all around us. You can be right smack dab in the middle of the right place at the right time and still not see the opportunity, still not maximize the connection, still not nurture the relationship, still not fill in the blank, whatever is the next step that really would unlock what you're looking for out of life because you're not aware that it's even there. And I know that I've been in that situation myself, and I'm sure that some of you have too. These principles will help open up the eyes of your understanding. So, the second component of the learning model that we're going to talk about today is based on our current level of belief. What do you really believe that you are capable of achieving in your life? Now, some of you have heard me talk about this because we've done the self-image class several years in a row. We're going to get ready to start that pretty soon. And Maxwell Maltz' phenomenal book, Psycho-Cybernetics, which is what we study in that class, he clearly states that a person does not get what it is they want in their life. They get what, get this, what they get in their life is what they think they are capable of achieving, what they believe. So it's not about what you get. It's about, oh, how about that? Isn't that something? All right, all right. So it's not about what you want out of life. It's about what you believe you can actually achieve. It's not about what you want out of life. It's about what you believe that you can achieve. All right. And so it's not about what you hope for. It's not about what you wish for. It's not about what you're thinking about. It's not what about you're dreaming about. It's deep down inside. What do you believe is really possible for you? And we have a lot of grand dreams and we have a lot of talking and we can sit around the table and we can say a whole lot of things. But a lot of these things, we don't really believe them deep down inside. That's why we don't ever do anything with them. Maxwell Maltz says a person does not outperform their own self-image. And that's really what happened to me. See, the reason I was stuck wasn't because of the economy. It wasn't because of the customers. It wasn't because of the contractors, the employees, my VA. It wasn't anybody. What happened was I had reached the level of my self-belief. And I never believed myself worthy or capable of outperforming it. I was hitting a belief lid. So remember, my belief was if you were slow and you came from a dubious family background, you're not going to amount to anything. So I sabotaged every opportunity to grow. I would get there, self-sabotage. Never amounted to anything until I learned how to change that belief, that self-image, as I expanded my awareness of that potential and I began to apply these principles. So how we do everything is really based on a learning model. And that learning model, again, is based on our awareness and our current beliefs. And within each learning model, there are principles that we must master in order to make that learning model successful. See, even if we expand our awareness, even if we have belief, if we don't learn to master the principles within the model that we're developing, we develop a learning model of failure. So let me give you an example of a learning model that I think we can all relate to. There was probably a time in your life where you had a really strong desire to ride a bike. But maybe your learning model at that time was probably a learning model of failure. You got on by yourself and you probably fell. Part of this failure was because you lacked the awareness and the understanding of your potential and all the principles within the learning model of riding a bike. You lacked the belief in your ability to ride the bike, even though you saw your sister, your brother, your neighbor, or friend ride the bike. But in order for that learning model of failure to be transformed into a learning model where you are now successfully riding a bike, several things had to happen. First, there was a coach or a mentor, probably your mom or your dad, older brother or sister, somebody who stood beside you while you sat on the bike. And they began to expand your awareness of your potential. They began to share with you a new belief that you could actually do it. You, in effect, borrowed their belief. And then they started to teach you some of the principles about riding the bike with the next learning model. They probably talked to you about balance, hand-eye coordination, muscle dexterity. And as they stood beside you on the bike and ran beside you as you pushed and pedaled, all right, they let you go. And chances are you fell. But you recognize that you did pedal one or two times before you fell, right? And although you didn't fully believe that you could do it, you decided to act on the borrowed belief of your coach or mentor. So you got back on the bike. And again, they began to expand your understanding and help you gain an awareness of your potential, that you could really do it. And you borrow their belief. They show you what you did wrong. They encourage you to do it better. They helped you master the principles. And each time in the process of failing and getting back on the bike, You expanded your awareness of your potential. You gained a better understanding of the principles. You changed your limiting belief that said, you can do this, to I can do this. Now, for most of us, in a very short period of time, we learn how to ride a bike, and that learning model still sticks with us for the rest of our lives. And we probably weren't even aware of what was going on, right? All those machinations I just mentioned, right? Then as I've had the privilege and the opportunity of traveling and working all over the world with very successful individuals from all walks of life and fields of endeavor, I have looked at their lives and I've been very curious about what are the principles within the learning model for their life achievement. What is it that these people had that seemingly others lacked? And then I came to realize they were operating with these key principles, and that's why I call them power principles. So take a look at your life. Look at the areas of your life where you've been really successful. You're going to find these 10 principles were properly applied in your life in that area. And I intend to show you with this Power Principles series how to change your learned behavior and limiting self-judgments that you may have bought into, how to take that limiting beliefs that you may have bought into with a counterfeit thoughts, and then I'm going to show you how to move forward. And so this illustration that we have about riding a bike is kind of a basic understanding, right? But what about something bigger than riding a bike without training wheels, right? What about creating a learning model of achievement for your entire life? What would it be like to change your entire life so that you're living your ultimate dream? You say, oh, well, I can't do that. I can't do that. I can't do that. Look, 12 years ago, I was over 800 something thousand dollars in debt, going through a horribly painful divorce. And you look at where my life is now. Don't tell me you can't do it. If you need to borrow some belief, borrow my belief. All right. All right. I want you to imagine what it would be like to change your entire life to be able to live your ultimate dream. And that really takes us to a whole new dimension and a whole new learned process. I hope you're asking yourself if you're ready for this. I hope you're really, really ready, because once we self-author or create a mental model of perfection that we want for our life, that becomes the first process for us to reach our goal. And I don't know about you today. I know for me, for my life, for most of my life, it never even occurred to me that I could change my life. For years, I remained stuck. My learning model and belief said that if I was going to be successful, I basically needed to be a whole nother person. And I couldn't be a whole nother person, so I wasn't going to be that successful. My awareness of my potential based on that belief produced a result. I did okay. I did okay. Never great. I did okay. My learning model, my belief, and awareness so that it takes money to make money. Well, I didn't have any money to make money. And my result was that I was broke. My learning model, based on my belief and awareness, so that it's better to be safe than sorry. So I didn't dare take a bet on myself because I was way too much of a risk. The truth is, in order for any of us to achieve success in life, really does require that risk. And so my result was I settled for less in every area of my life. Part of my learning model said that I had to play the hand I was dealt based on my awareness and my belief. So it never occurred to me that I could change my life. And perhaps you've been told that too. And I found out that it's not true, all right? I found out that not only can we throw our hand that we were dealt back to the center of the table, but if we choose, we can gain understanding and expand our awareness of our potential and move beyond the convictions of our limiting beliefs. And if we begin to study and gain an understanding of these power principles in our lives, we can become the dealer of the cards in our lives. This is not like a fishing trip, right? Where you're equipped with all the necessary gear, but you don't have any guarantee you're actually going to catch something, right? You just kind of hope you do. And sometimes you go out there and you don't expect to catch anything, right? I think anytime my son takes me fishing, he doesn't expect to catch anything because mom talks too much and runs the fish off, right? This isn't a fishing trip where you may or may not come home with a fish. This is a journey that begins with understanding that you as an individual truly are equipped with all the necessary gear, all the resources necessary to co-create a life beyond the condition and circumstances that you find yourself in. It has nothing to do with hope and everything to do with belief. And this is your chance. This is a chance for all of us. You know, we get one chance here on earth. This is not a dress rehearsal, right? But you have been gifted with all the resources to create the life that you truly want and deserve. It's my intention in creating this series and my highest hope for you to gain a deeper understanding of these truths within each principles and gain in a fortitude, a faith, and a belief in your ability to create this authentic, successful, and rewarding life. I encourage you to believe in yourself and to believe in your ability to achieve. You have mastered many individual challenges in your lifetime. Now is the time to master your life. And that's why I believe that the first principle is understanding. In Proverbs 3:13, it says, happy is the man that findeth wisdom and the man that getteth understanding. See, there's a difference between knowing and wisdom. There's a lot of people in our lives who say they know something, and all of us, know how to do something better in their lives, right? Like we know how to do it, right? I know if I sit on the couch and if I eat a bag of Cheetos every night, that is not going to help me reach my life goal of personal health. But there were still times in my life where I sat on the couch every single night eating a bag of Cheetos or something equivalent, right? So we don't always do what we know. We don't always do what we know. Most salespeople know that if they simply ask for referrals and stay connected with their prospects and customers, they're going to increase their sales, right? But they don't always do what they know. We don't always do what we know. Most people know in relationships with our loved one, if we start the day and end the day looking into the eyes of the people who are most important in our lives and tell them that we love them, that we care about them, and how significant they are to us, those relationships would deepen. But we don't always do what we know. It's been said that the largest gap in our life is the gap between what we know and that what we do. The largest gap in our life is between that which we know and that which we do. And I believe that the bridge between the gap of knowing and doing is understanding. When we know something, typically that's a process of gathering information like we were taught to do in school, right? Read, remember, repeat. Read, remember, repeat. Spit it back out for the test, right? Then we can say we know because we've answered a certain number of questions on a quiz and we got a grade that shows we know. But understanding requires internalizing the knowledge, stepping out and acting on the knowledge, understanding the change and the feedback of our results and the conditions and circumstances of our environment, and then making the necessary adjustments in that process. It goes beyond knowing. Understanding goes way deeper than knowing. And all of my study has convinced me that the only way we gain a true understanding of anything is through this two-step process of study and application. And that's part of what we're going to be doing here in this series. You're going to study the principles, become emotionally attached with them, and then do what Zig Ziglar always said, give yourself a checkup from the neck up with each of these principles. You're going to evaluate each of them in relationship to your own life. And then with each principle, I will share some simple things that you can do to apply that understanding to your life. So you'll see that begins to change in your life from that experience. And then you'll be able to ask yourself, well, how do I apply this new principle in new learning to what area in my life? What changes in my conditions do I need to make? How does this change my circumstances? And so you're gonna love it. What you're gonna love it. You're gonna love it. All right. And so we want to be able to be inquisitive about this. We want to be able to seek understanding. We want to be able to understand, what's the feedback we're giving as a result of stepping out and trying to create these new behaviors and these new learning patterns. And sometimes we, got to understand is sometimes we define the feedback as failure. Sometimes we define the feedback as success. But the truth is, it's not success or failure. It's feedback that allows us to reevaluate and make the necessary adjustments. See, too many of us are afraid to make a step forward because we're afraid of failing. We need to not look at it like a failure. We need to look at it as feedback that's going to help us make the necessary adjustments so we can take the next step forward in our life. So, real quick, excuse me for just a second. Mm. So, if I've learned anything through my understanding of these principles, it's that the conditions and circumstances of our life can never and will never predict what's possible in our lives. You're going to hear me say that every time when I teach these principles. You're probably going to hear me say it every time in all of my classes, right? Your present circumstances and conditions do not dictate your future. The conditions and circumstances of our life can never and will never predict what's possible for our life. That is why we've been gifted with imagination. Our imagination is our ability to co create this mental model of perfection beyond the limiting circumstances and conditions we find ourselves in and get us into a fuller expansion and expression of our lives. And as far as we know it, in this entire universe, you and I are the only beings, the only creatures that have been gifted with this power of imagination, with this power to create a life beyond our circumstances and conditions. You're never going to drive down a road in Wisconsin and pass by a field of cows and see one of the cows jump up on the fence and say to the other cows, "Hey, listen, we don't have to be cows anymore. Let's go be giraffes or kangaroos. Let's be a dog today. I think I want to be a dog." We don't see that because they don't have the ability to change their lives. You and I, every single moment of every single day, we have been gifted with that ability to change. I didn't believe that for so many years, and I wasn't aware of my potential, and I didn't understand the principles of how to do it. See, when we say I can no longer accept this for my life, in the rest of these principles, that is when the process of understanding that saying I can't accept this anymore in my life, that is when we begin to co-create a new future. We begin to work with the power that I define as God. And some of you may refer to your higher power in another way, but you're going to hear me in this series define this creative source, this infinite intelligence, this creator of heaven and earth as God. All right. And I've come to know that there's a power we can co-create our lives with, and I call that power God. And when we expand our awareness of our infinite true potential, when we challenge the convictions of our old limiting beliefs, and when we replace them with new empowering beliefs, when we gain a true understanding of who we are, and more importantly, whose we are, and we apply these power principles in our lives, we will never again be held in the field of limitation of what we currently have and see for our lives. So let me go ahead and say that again as we begin to close. Once the eyes of our understanding have been opened, we will never again be held in the field of limitation of what we're currently having seeing for our lives. Oh, I hope you enjoy the rest of this series. It is juicy. Now, for those of you who are new to me, this has been JJ Conway. I am going to close out here, and I encourage you to get the continuation of this series in my website, on my website, buildingwealthtogether.com. In fact, you can go to, let me see if I have a banner for it. You can go out to jjclink.com/countdown, and you can get the continuation of this lesson that will drop on Monday, as well as the MP3s that we're going to be uploading of each of these lessons. I feel like I'm ending a little shortly today. I promised my husband I was going to stop doing these marathon classes, and I have so much more to say on this. But I actually will. So I broke up the lessons. Okay, I broke up the lessons, and so that way I would be able to sit in the timeline. And so for me, it's like I know that I have so much more to say on this, but I'm going to drop that for you on Monday, and we're going to continue on with with principle 2, which is honesty. I hope that you guys will join me in that class. If you're unable to join us in the class, then you can come back here at the same time and place Thursday night, and we'll pick up with principle 3. But again, these principles have the ability to change your life. A lot of us are going to go do these vision boards. We're going to go do these strategic plannings. We're going to get to do all of these little things. And I'm going to tell you, if you don't incorporate these principles into your life, it will move you forward, because that's the reason we do it. But it won't move you forward as exponentially as it could if you would tear down these limiting beliefs and move forward in your life. Again, I'm JJ Conway. You can find me on the web at buildingwealthtogether.com. I encourage you to walk in abundance, for it is your birthright. Y'all take care and be blessed.